For this project, I am going to be using a very, very thin glass vase. I started, and can you see how I'm nipping it? A lot of times when you nip thin glass, it will just crumble. You have to have nippers that come almost all the way together to be able to nip it. And I ended up using my C-Bell nippers for this because I couldn't find my other. Now look at the difference in this. Look how thin the vase is, and the other thicker glass was from those beer mugs to the left. So the C-Bell nippers almost come all the way together, but not quite. You're best off using ones that do come all the way together. I could not find them, but this ended up there are ways to adjust your nippers so that they come closer together. Do not do it with the C-Bell nippers. Use a cheap pair, and I do have a video on how to do it. So what I'm making today are petals for poppies, and these are little tiny flowers that I'm making because I'm putting it on a small canvas. But I'm just taking like a rectangular piece of glass, rounding it off at the top and making it narrower at the bottom. And these are not perfect petals by any means, but each flower consists of, for this project, 6 petals. And again, another piece of glass, I'm rounding it off at the top very carefully, and then at the bottom I'm going to cut the bottom off and then make it a little bit narrower at the bottom than it is at the top. And for those of you who know how to knit petals, just fast forward through this. So those are the little petals I'm making, and it is kind of tedious because it's such thin glass, it's hard to nip just right, and I'm making such tiny petals. But I'm just getting like rectangular pieces of glass, scraps from the bottom there, and rounding the top off, and then making it a little bit narrower toward the bottom, just like that. Those will work out perfect. And I'm making 6 per flower. So I'm just going to continue to go slow. I'm just pulling pieces that have broken off of my vase there, and again making them into like rectangles, I guess, and trying to shape each piece. So there you go. And then I'm going to round off the top and make the bottom a little shorter and narrower. So that would be the top of the petal, and the shorter, narrower part is what's going to come together at the very bottom of the flower, or the center of the flower, I should say. And I'm making 3 poppies and some buds. So there you go. So I'm going to show you one more petal, and then we're going to move on. So again, my thin piece of glass, and I'm rounding the top of it. And then that's what it looks like. And then we want it a little bit shorter, so we're cutting the bottom off. And then we want it a little bit narrower at the bottom, so we're just making them a little bit narrower. And that's what my petals look like for this project. Just like that. And now we'll move on. Might be able to see them better here. Each flower is going to consist of the 6 petals. Then I cut 3 more petals like that to make a side view of the poppy, and this is how I cut them. And I also cut one single one. I'm using the single ones for little buds, poppy buds. And like I say, this thin glass is so hard to nip. You really have to have a nippers that comes all the way together. And even with that, a lot of times it can crumble. So those are all my pieces for my poppies. Ended up throwing them in the tumbler with some other glass. And for those of you that don't know this, if you have glass that you've spray painted but want to reuse the pieces of glass for something else with a different color, throw them in the tumbler, and it could take up to 2 hours, but it will take the spray paint off. I do put a little of the Dawn dishwashing liquid, and all that does is it helps clean the glass, and it may help to take some of the spray paint off. Our tumbling process removes the sharp edges from the glass so that you do not cut yourself. Thinner glass may take a little longer to get the sharp edges off than thicker glass. After it was done tumbling, I rinsed it off, dried it, laid it out on some paper, took it out to the garage and sprayed it with, this is actually the Tamiya metallic red spray paint. And if you spray it light enough, it is translucent and it's really pretty. When you do put it on more concentrated, it's even prettier but not translucent. Did only spray one side of the glass. So I'm not sure how well you can see this, but you can see I have all the petals spread out. I take the UV resin and I make a blob on top of the silicone mat. Then I take two of the petals and I put them across from each other. And I apologize, my hands are in the way. I put them across from each other and I take the UV light and I turn it on. And as soon as I do that, and this is really hard to see right now, but as soon as I do that, I lift up the two ends, the two rounded ends, so that they're standing up off the mat, but that the flat part that's stuck in the UV resin is on the mat. Count about 30 seconds and then they will stand up on their own, just like that. And then you move around and do all of the rest of the petals in the same way. So next, again, like I said, you add the UV resin, the glass, put the UV light on it, hold it for about 30 seconds until they stand up on their own, let go, and then leave the UV light on it for maybe another minute. And this is what it looks like. I think that looks pretty cool. Maybe they should have been overlapping a little more for poppies, I'm not sure, but for being such tiny petals, it was really hard to do. And then I have these little seed beads that I got at Hobby Lobby, black seed beads, and I put some resin in the middle, put the seed beads on top, and then put the UV light on top of that. And isn't that cute? I think those turned out so cute. So now this is a better angle to watch it from so you can see it. So the main thing is hold it up off of the mat for 30 seconds, and after about 30 seconds with the UV light, it will stay up on its own. And then I just work my way around the flower, doing about 2 petals at a time. Now, it's in your best interest to use the high viscosity UV resin, then you don't use as much, but I had run out and all I had was the J. Diction their new resin, and it's much thinner, and when you're putting flowers together you're better off using a high viscosity resin. But it just happened to be all I had at the time, so that was what I used and it worked fine. So a few years ago I was at a garage sale and they had a bead curtain for sale, and I think it was only like $1. So I bought it and I took it home, and look at all these beads I took off of the bead curtain. And these I think were a much paler yellow, and I think I sprayed them that darker yellow, but can you see the ones that are in the baggie? I think they were lighter like that. And I mean, I have used these in multiple different projects before, and I still have tons of them left. I still have another container of them. Almost 2 years ago in July, I had made this large window with the poppy flowers on it. And if you notice, the stems are made out of these same beads, only colored green. At that time, I colored them with the Krylon green spray paint, but I'm going to show you another way to color them. So since then I have found the Indian ink, and they have a color called grass green that is a real pretty green. And all I did was threw them into a cup, put some drops of the grass green on, and shake, 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 shake. And I think I ended up putting a couple more drops on and shaking it up again, pouring it out onto wax paper to dry, and it's a beautiful green color. You can color the Michaels Ashland decorative filler crushed glass, the reflective glass, in this same way, and you can also color the fiberglass, clear fiberglass, in this exact same way, just putting it in a cup and shaking it up. And this Indian ink, Bombay Indian ink, does not need to be sealed. It doesn't run. It doesn't fade. Canvas I'm using is a 12 by 4 inch canvas. It's a 1.5 inches tall, so it's a fairly thick canvas that can actually stand on its own. And it has been painted with Artist Loft iridescent medium to give it that beautiful shimmery white. In your best interest to flip it over and put painter's tape on the opposite side to catch any drips that drip down if you're to put resin on the side of your project. It makes the drips easier to get off by just removing the tape the next morning. But I totally forgot about it, but I put this clip in so that you would know how to do it. The flowers were placed. I took clear Elmer's glue and drew lines as if they were the stems. And it's really important that you use the clear Elmer's glue. This will dry perfectly clear and the resin will totally cover it up. You won't even notice it. The regular Elmer's school glue you will notice through the resin after it dries. Then I just took each little bead and placed it right on top of the glue, and this is the easiest way to do it, and they stick right in place. When I had originally done my other poppy project, I had them on a string, and I tried doing it that way, and I don't know, this really made it so much easier. Just like this, they stick right into the glue. I did let this dry for about 4 hours. It needs to be totally dry before you pour resin on top of it. And then to create the two smaller buds, normally I would use 2 little pieces of glass on each side of the red, but because I'd already started with the beads, I thought, oh, I'll just go ahead and use beads. So I put the UV resin on, put the beads on each side, put the UV light on it, and voila, it worked out perfect. And I went ahead and I did that for the smaller bead also, just used for the smaller bud, just use 2 of the little green beads and put it on each side and put the UV light on it. And I thought that worked out perfect. Next, I was ready for the resin. The resin I used for this project was art resin. Art resin is a 1-to-1 ratio resin that you mix slowly in a cup for about 3 minutes, scraping the sides, scraping the bottom to ensure thorough mixing. Art resin is a fairly expensive resin, and as soon as I use this up, I'm going to be experimenting with some other resins because a lot of people complain about this yellowing, and other people are saying that there's a lot of other resins that work just as well but are half the price of art resin. So I think I'm going to be trying them out, and I'll let you know what I think. So anyway, when I put the resin on, I always put it over the glass and whatever little objects are on there first. And then after I've completely covered that, I go ahead and go onto the canvas. I usually use either my spoon or my fingers to smooth it out. And I do like the resin to be covering all the edges. Some people don't. It's a personal preference. I do. And so I take it and I spread it out along that. I think I mixed up like 4 ounces, and I really didn't use a lot for this, maybe 1.5 ounces at the most, and I'm sure this size probably, according to the art resin calculator, would be about 2 ounces. But I did put it up on a couple cups so that it wouldn't stick to the paper underneath it. What's under it is actually a silicone mat, and it would not stick to a silicone mat, but it would pool around it. So you would have to cut the resin off, so it's best off if you can put it up on some cups. Next, I took some gold reflective fiberglass that I had picked up on Amazon and had spray painted with the Krylon green, summer green spray paint a long time ago. Put that at the very bottom, put some pretty red beads at the bottom. I also had some gold embellishments that I had picked up a long time ago at a garage sale, and some of them were little gold butterflies. I thought they were so pretty, and I put those all over. This was actually an estate sale, and the woman who passed, I think, was an egg decorator, they said. And she had all these little embellishments that I picked up for a really inexpensive price. I found some similar embellishments on Temu, and I will link them under the description if you're interested. Also had some small white acrylic flowers that I had picked up on Temu that I thought were real cute, and I just scattered those around at the bottom. Also scattered some small gold beads at the bottom on top of the glass, and then I drizzled a little bit of resin over everything because I hadn't put it on top of anything. The resin was only sitting under the glass. Your best interest to just drizzle it over this type of glass, fire glass, and not flood it, because then it will sparkle more. After I finished putting the resin on, I used my kitchen torch to get rid of any of the bubbles. After I'm done with the project, I always come back every 15 minutes and check for glass placement. It's really important that it's sitting on a flat, level surface. I also check for bubbles and retorch if needed. Use a toothpick to move the glass around to get any sediment out. I'm also using the toothpick to get rid of any drips that might have dripped under the bottom because I forgot to put the painter's tape on the other side. At the last minute, I decided I'm going to sprinkle a little glass around it. So this glass is actually glass from Michael's. It was out around Christmas time. It's a type of Ashland decorative filler, and it's actually iridescent. It is very, very light, so you don't want to put the resin on top of it, yet you want to place it on top of the resin, or else you'll lose its iridescent qualities. And like I said, this glass comes out at Christmas time. Hopefully it comes out again. And just before Christmas or any of the holidays that they have glass, specialty glass for, they do go on sale, sometimes up to 70% off. So you have to keep your eyes open for that. Anyway, this resin sets best at temperatures between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. It's in your best interest to put a dust cover over your project when you're done. All resins are different. You need to read the directions for the resin that you are using. Hey everyone, another project. So these poppies I think are so cute, but because they were so tiny, you know, they're really tiny flowers, they were a little bit more difficult to make, and because it was on such thin glass, and I originally used those beer mugs that you saw in the very beginning of the video to cut up the petals, but then I thought, oh, that's too thick. It won't be as good. But anyway, look from the side. You see how they stand up and they're not flat on the canvas? That's what's so cool about them. When you use the UV resin, you're able to make them more three-dimensional. But anyway, I just think they turned out so cute. And these beads, like I said, I had gotten those a couple years ago at a garage sale, and I have used them for a bunch of different things, but you can make the long, thin stems out of, anything. You could make them, well, these beads, you can actually get similar beads to this on Amazon. I found those. They looked like they were about the same size. They were clear, so you could color them whatever color you want. And I was also thinking the rhinestone chains would be good for long stems for poppies, because the poppies have the long, thin stems. And after I finished it, I thought, oh, I didn't put any leaves on it. But if you go look at the poppy flower, like online, the images, they don't have leaves. They have leaves kind of coming up from the bottom a little bit, but not any on the actual stems. They're just these long, thin stems. So, because usually I forget to put leaves on. But anyway, and also I found some embellishments, some metal embellishments like this, butterflies, and it came with some other things on Temu. So I'll try to link the beads and metal embellishments if I can, if you're, interested. And I think it's so cool when you put a bunch of stuff at the bottom like that. It just makes it so pretty. Look at how sparkly that is. And then the very last thing I put on was the glass. And so let's see if you can see it. It is a tiny bit iridescent and sparkly, and because it's so light, you do not want to put resin or it will totally disappear. And this is the packaging that it came in. It's an Ashland decorative filler that came out around Christmas. And it says Christmas on there too. And then just before Christmas, they put it to like 70% off. So I buy up a bunch of glass then. And when you look close, you can, hopefully you can see it. It makes it a little bit more sparkly. I think it adds to it. You know, sometimes I add stuff at the end and I think, what did I do that for? But this, I think, adds to it. So anyway, all in all, I think it turned out cute. I hope you guys enjoyed the project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps the channel. If you enjoy the channel, go ahead and subscribe. That really helps the channel. We have the Facebook page going, an amazing group of people displaying beautiful artwork. Everybody, the main thing about it is everybody's so helpful. If you ask a question, there is a bunch of people who jump in and try to find a solution or tell you their experiences with, you know, glass art. And there's all different types of glass artists, you know, on there also and all different levels. People have been doing it for years. I was talking to somebody online the other day. I think she said she was a mosaic artist for the past 25 years. So, you know, all different experiences, all different levels, very helpful. Come join us there. And I hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks for watching.